Hi, everyone. I'm Pat Fitzmaurice, managing editor of Fantasy Pros and Betting Pros, and I'm going to run through my favorite week 2 prop bets in just a minute. But first, if you want a chance to win a signed Joe Mixon Cincinnati Bengals jersey, courtesy of our friends at Pristine Auction, you need to subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel right now. Comment below on this video, and that's it. We will be announcing a winner right here on the channel, so make sure to turn on those notifications so that you can be alerted when new episodes are up and to claim your prize. And by the way, do you want to keep track of all your wagers in one place? Of course you do. So check out the Betting Pros Pick Tracker at bettingpros.com/pick-tracking. It syncs up with your sports books to tally which picks hit and which ones miss, and it gives you a live look at what the public is doing, so you can use real-time tracking to determine which plays to make and which to fade. Get on the leaderboard and quickly become a sharp by using the free advice we have to offer at bettingpros.com/pick-tracking. All right, let's start with a quick review of week 1. Last week's bets went 5-2. Not bad. The wins, well, we hit the under on Trey Lance passing yardage. That one was easy. I told you that game was going to be a monsoon, and in fact it was. So we also hit the over on Jameis Winston passing yardage. We hit the over on Joe Mixon rushing yardage, the under on Tony Pollard rushing yardage, and the over on A.J. Brown receiving yardage. The misses, well, we had 2 of them, and let me tell you, they were spectacular misses. We had Mike Williams over 56.5 receiving yards. Yeah, that one didn't work out so well. 10 receiving yards for Mike Williams. Somehow in a game that Keenan Allen left with an injury in the first half. Not sure how that turned out the way it did. Still trying to figure that one out, but hey. And the other one, Robbie Anderson, under 32.5 yards, and he went for 105 yards. Hey, if you're going to miss, you might as well miss spectacularly, and that we did. But 5-2 is a pretty good start. Now on to week 2, and we are going to start with quarterbacks. We've got 2 QB picks after going 2-0 last week. Tom Brady under 276.5 yards. Look, Dennis Allen, who has been the Saints defensive coordinator since 2015 and is now their head coach, stepping in for Sean Payton. He's kind of had Tom Brady's number since the GOAT arrived in Tampa in 2020. Brady has failed to hit this number in 4 of his 5 games against the Saints as a Buccaneer, including a January 2021 playoff game. Brady's yardage totals in those 5 games, 239, 209, 199, 375, and 214. So 375, obviously, way over this number. But the other one's all pretty well below this number. Brady won't have Chris Godwin out with a hamstring injury. Julio Jones dealing with a knee injury. They're expected to play, but we're not practicing earlier this week. Also banged up left tackle Donovan Smith, who is dealing with an elbow injury. And Saints cornerback Marshawn Lattimore has had Mike Evans' number in the past, keeping him well in check, below 70 yards for Evans in each of the Buccaneers' last 5 games against the Saints. So I think Brady is going to have a tall order going over 276.5 yards. I do like Carson Wentz over 240.5 yards. Look, as mentioned earlier, A.J. Brown really came through for us last week, cruising well past his over number in receiving yardage and in receptions. That was against a Detroit defense that is really weak in the secondary, and we're going to keep picking on that bad defensive backfield. I think Wentz is a more appealing play than any of the individual Washington receivers because it turns out Washington might have 3 really good ones. Like we saw Jahan Dotson kind of go off. The rookie had 2 touchdowns last week. Curtis Samuel had a nice game. And Terry McLaurin is the number 1 wide receiver there. So rather than trying to guess at the target and reception distribution for Washington, why not just leverage all 3 of those pass catchers by betting the over on Wentz here. The Lions gave up a league-high 7.6 yards per pass attempt last year. They gave up 7.5 yards per pass attempt last week. And as we noted here last week, Lions cornerback Jeffrey Okudah came into the season having allowed 2.28 yards per coverage snap and 12.6 yards per target over his brief career. Those are hideous numbers. And the Lions' other outside cornerback, Amani Oruwariye, hasn't been much better, and he entered 2022 having allowed 1.2 yards per coverage snap and 9.1 yards per target for his career. So these guys can be picked on, and I think Carson Wentz is going to pick on them. Let's move to Javonte Williams, over 59.5 rushing yards. All right, Williams had a really modest rushing line in week 1, 7 carries for 43 yards against the Seahawks on Monday night. But he was used extensively in the passing game, 12 targets and 11 catches. Melvin Gordon had a better rushing game than Javonte Williams did, 12 carries for 58 yards. But Williams played 58% of the snaps while Gordon played just 41%. And that's what we were kind of wondering about coming into the season, how the workload was going to be divided. It was really close to 50-50 last year. But in week 1, it was more like a 60-40 split in Williams' favor. And I kind of think that's what we're going to see going forward. So that should mean at least 12 to 15 carries this week for Williams. In a game the Broncos are favored in by 10 points at home against the Texans. In other words, that should be a run-friendly game script for the Broncos. And the Texans gave up more rushing yards to running backs than any other team in the league last year. And in week 1, Jonathan Taylor just steamrolled them for 161 rushing yards. So I think Javonte Williams over 59.5 rushing yards looks like a pretty good bet. He could probably get there with 2 or 3 big runs. Raheem Mostert, under 24.5 rushing yards. Generally, I don't like making picks on numbers this low, but I think this is just a solid percentage play. Mostert is a part-time player. He is playing behind Chase Edmonds, and he played fewer than half of the Dolphins' offensive snaps in their Week 1 matchup. Now the Dolphins get a tough road game against Baltimore, and good run defenses have been a hallmark of Ravens head coach John Harbaugh's teams over the years. Over the last 4 seasons, the Ravens have ranked 3rd, 9th, 13th, and 3rd in rushing yardage allowed to running backs. Again, 3rd, 9th, 13th, and 3rd. They've been pretty tough on opposing running backs, and I don't think Mostert is going to get to 24.5 rushing yards in this game. Cooper Kupp, over 94.5 receiving yards. Look, those of you who watched these videos last year know that I was pretty much hammering Cooper Kupp's overs week after week, and they paid off handsomely. I mean, the guy was the Triple Crown winner of wide receivers, leading the league in catches, receiving yards, and TD catches. So let's get back on the train in 2022. So let's see. Kupp averaged 114.5 receiving yards per game last year. And then he comes out against the Bills and has 13 catches for 128 yards in week 1. Now he faces a slot funnel Falcons defense. And what I mean by that is that Atlanta's outside cornerbacks, A.J. Terrell and Casey Hayward, are pretty good. Their other cornerbacks, D. Alford and Mike Ford, are not. Ford is a journeyman. Alford is an undrafted free agent. Likely those are going to be the guys trying to stop Cooper Kupp this week. That is as big a mismatch as you can get as far as wide receivers and quarterbacks go. So look for Kupp to smash yet again. One note on this, on DraftKings as of Thursday afternoon, it was minus 120 juice to bet Cooper Kupp's over as opposed to the standard minus 115. Yeah, that's not going to deter me at all on this one. Smash that Cooper Kupp over. And finally, let's hit Noah Fant under 22.5 receiving yards. Yes, another small number. I don't like betting unders on small numbers generally, but in week 1, Fant was targeted 4 times, had 3 catches for 16 yards. What caught my attention was that the Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith also targeted Will Dissly 3 times and Colby Parkinson 2 times. So Fant is not the only game in town at tight end for the Seahawks. Dissly and Parkinson are going to be involved too. And this is not a good matchup either for the Seattle tight ends. They're going against a 49ers defense that allowed the second fewest receiving yards to tight ends in the league. Tied for the second fewest receiving yards to tight ends last year. So let's recap those again. We are betting Tom Brady under 276.5 passing yards. We are betting Carson Wentz over 240.5 passing yards. We're betting Javonte Williams over 59.5 rushing yards. We're betting Raheem Mostert under 24.5 rushing yards. We're betting Cooper Kupp over 94.5 receiving yards, and we are betting Noah Fant under 22.5 receiving yards. All of those odds are courtesy of DraftKings as of Thursday afternoon. That is it for the Week 2 props. Good luck, my friends. Hope Week 2 treats you well, and we will see you back here next week.